All right.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, Jaylen Prater, ladies and gentlemen. Take two again. And we covered so much good stuff in that initial 7 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you roasted Kiefer.
And we got to get back into roasting Kiefer.
I did call out Kiefer for
his
hating on Hamden. I can't remember who it was. It was, I don't know, probably 2 years ago on a pod that I watched on the way. My dad drove to Chicago yesterday, picked me up, drove back same day, just so I could come be on the pod. So
thanks, Curdy.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Kurt. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Kurt won't come on, but he'll drive to Chicago to get his
pick up his son, bring him back. Your dad is everywhere.
Yeah,
he's
everywhere and nowhere else.
He's everywhere. Like I'll be like, "Where you at?" "Oh, bud, going to Michigan tomorrow." "How are you doing?" "Going to Chicago tomorrow."
He does stay on the road. He does. He travels a lot for work.
I'm so glad that he has decided to come over and start boxing.
Yeah.
He's having a good time. I'm having a good time with him. I love it whenever he and I partner up. I mean, it's fun. We push each other. Like we were talking before I forgot to hit record, and just those guys, man, they are just that crew of guys. Like your dad and Kiefer, and I don't know the Bethel kid. I do know him, but I wasn't around him much. But I was around Prater, and we talked about Walter Mahan and those guys. And
I grew. I mean, that's my childhood. Them lifting
savages.
Weights in my basement, in my house in Hamden,
Kiefer.
and that was really the genesis of me just being like sport being a part of life. It started with fitness and kind of bodybuilding, and that was what was big at the time. And
is that what they did with you? Like, I know your dad, like even like before, even whenever I was in school, your dad was like not necessarily a coach, but he always stayed around the program, and it, in like a great way, because Kurt was like kind of like cutting edge of weightlifting back then. Like he was learning a lot of new stuff and reading magazines. He was ate up with quick story on your dad. I used to referee those guys, him and Kiefer and all them, and that's how I met him. And I'm a freshman in high school, right? This is like 1995. And dude, those guys were such savages. I mean, they were either going to win or kick your ass. Okay, and it was that way every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
Yeah, your dad would always wear these cutoff shirts and just had these monster python arms. Do you remember Curdy back then? He just stayed so jacked all the time. So you saying like whenever you were a little kid, you think the reason or one of the reasons that you like got real competitive is because of those guys, and like they were constantly in your basement just grinding, throwing weight.
That's all I can remember. As being young and just being down there,
you couldn't help but be competitive, probably just from
definitely
seeing it. I mean,
and they were all competitive, right? Just it's World's Strongest Man, Party Foul, Sounds On, and it was just something that I grew up around.
You don't know,
and I had no choice. Didn't know any different.
Yeah.
It's the only way I knew. So
do you think that, obviously you probably, I'm sure, we could go on, and we're not going to, but like, football was obviously your main sport. You end up getting a full ride Northwestern out of a small rural Ohio town called Wellston, Ohio. Mm-hmm. But you had some travels along the way, not necessarily different schools, but like you had a lot of like competition on the way. Do you think that like that, were you just wanting that competition because of that, you think?
Yeah,
needing it.
Yeah, I was raised kind of like you probably can't say that PC these days, but like I was definitely raised to be competitive. I was bred to be competitive. That's the only thing I knew in sport was the vehicle for me being competitive.
Your mom was a great athlete.
My mom was a great athlete. Dad was a great athlete. And just that's how that was my way of life, right? That was my language. I spoke with sport. And immediately it took me places. It took me, even if it was playing Gus Smacker, right?
Yeah.
All around Ohio, or just playing 3-on-3 basketball. And basketball was really one of my favorite sports because it was fun. I think because there wasn't as much pressure and I could just have fun with it.
Less intense, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe less head injuries.
Different style of intensity.
But that's sport was just a part of my life, and that started with weightlifting and fitness.
Talk a little bit about the transition from Wellston to Chicago via Northwestern. You got recruited to play football there, and I'm sure that wasn't the only school that recruited you. What went into the process of saying, well, man, I want to go to Northwestern. I want to go to Chicago. What?
Yeah. So, I mean, really zoom out tenfold. We'll just go from the jump, if that's okay. And some of the stuff we were talking about earlier as well with recruiting. I mean, recruiting was never really in our area, especially Southern Ohio, small town. There was no real huge athletes that were coming out. And if they were so good that they didn't need, there were some basketball athletes at Wellston and some things, in like I think late 90s. They didn't need the facilitation that a lot of athletes needed. And we didn't have much exposure naturally to the area. And it's still early internet days. I mean, it'd been around for 10 or 15 years, but in terms of recruiting, the systems and processes were not up to date.
Right.
So there was no data, in Southeastern Ohio. So we had to go everywhere. So we traveled. I mean, props to my mom and my dad and Jason Prater, right, for facilitating a lot of that.
Did you go to a lot of combines and things like that? Okay.
Definitely. We can get into more of the sports performance stuff and Jason and AP and kind of the origin, like the actual origins of that in a bit. But let's stick to the recruiting part, right? So we had to go out, facilitate that, driving all over the country, flying to things. I went to Army All-American camps. I went to camps here and there. And I mean, they were even at the time, my dad was having these CDs burnt of my film, and we were just shipping them to schools. There was like a DVD of my highlight tapes. We would just send them out. Some guy, I think, like made them in like the Carolinas or something. So that was really the start of kind of earning the stripes for art. Not that it was just me, my class. There was a lot of guys in my class and around that, in our kind of fitness, like
core group.
The core group that was doing the same thing. I'm not going to act like it's not all me by any means.
There's a crew of you.
But being active and proactive and going out and traveling was a lot of it, and making these tapes and sending them to people, because we weren't, DeSales, and we weren't in the Dublin schools, and we weren't St. Ed's, we weren't St. Ed's or Cincinnati.
Yeah.
There was no natural traffic. So we got out and did that. Of course, you still have to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
But I was able to do that, especially at combines and, whatever, just single day camps, those invite only type of things where I could go and just be an athlete, which honestly, was my biggest asset. I was just a good athlete, and we worked hard at it. I wasn't, naturally gifted. Of course I am. I'm not going to act like I didn't, have natural ability, but it was a lot of the things that Jason and I started doing around 2006, 2007 in my backyard on the side road, Bay Road in Hamden. That really started the whole, is the origin story of AP prep, weight room coach, all the things that you see now is really just, we were trying things.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, time to pay some bills. This show brought to you tonight by Brad and Sarah Munn, owners of your local McDonald's restaurants. Brad and Sarah have done a lot for our community, and McDonald's has done a lot for all of us. The statement, "I'm loving it," we can all relate to that. We've been loving it for years, and we love what they do for our communities and our families. But let me talk about a big charity that they do, and that is the Ronald McDonald House. Man, anytime you get a chance to leave your change for that, it's a great thing. They allow parents of sick children to stay with their kids at the hospital for free. And that's just the kind of things that McDonald's does. Get out and support your McDonald's restaurant.
We were,
Give me an example. Like this is early days of you can't throw like tire flipping in there, but like a lot of like that. That was the whole CrossFit.
It was. I think it was. I think it was a transition time in like how people were working out to prepare for a sport.
Yeah.
Like I think it kind of started going next level there, where
agree.
it wasn't like, hey, let's see how much weight we can throw on the bar. It's like, let's also get some movement going. Let's
break your hips loose.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, sports science really changed around
mid 2000s,
2010, 2011, 2012, really 7 to 12. That was my junior high to high school time. I think a lot of it is, credit to the internet and people sharing information and trying new things. But some of the things we were trying, for instance, like your 40 stance. We would time trials, literally write it down on a piece of paper. If you put your hand here, if your feet are close to the line,
your fingers out here,
if your feet are close together, what angle, or if you're at a 45-degree angle, what's the optimal
explosion
knee drive, right? How many steps should you take in a 40? We just measured everything.
Yeah.
And then tried to figure out what worked.
Would you call these like SMART goals, specific, measurable,
yeah, I mean,
reachable?
Certainly. I mean, to some extent, but we didn't know what we were going for.
Yeah. You didn't know the ends.
It was in the experimental phase, more or less.
Yeah. So we just tried things.
Does this work?
Yeah. It was truly an experiment. And through that, over the last now nearly
almost 20,
we'll call it
decade 2024, bud.
Over 15 years.
Yeah.
We've really refined that process. And it still happens. And the thing that we never did was just like, oh yeah, that's the best way. We always had our ears open, our eyes open. We traveled places. We went to Columbus. We went to Texas. We went to Florida, All-American combines, whatever, just to see. Well, one, I was competing, but two, to see what people were doing.
Yeah, what are they looking to see? What are they looking for?
Yeah. So that definitely, that kind of transitioned. I mean, like recruiting and sports science really kind of at the same time were side by side climbing and going in a direction that was new and interesting and different. And it's a lot of the foundational stuff that you see still today.
It changed the game. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that. That was whenever it kind of went from that old smash mouth,
yep.
To kind of more basketball and turf type of deal. I mean, that's a bad verbiage.
Football has definitely gone through a lot of change and become, I think, a lot more athletic and stuff. But no, so that's interesting to me. Like you kind of, rather than waiting on somebody to come to Wellston to recruit you went out and attacked it.
Yeah, and
you're like, I'm gonna put myself in front of these places.
And it's funny. I think that's the best way. Experiment, trial and error, doing things yourself, and just trying to make progress any way necessary. It's funny because today I had similar conversations about different things, but it's this paradox of choice that we have now, where we think we want all the options. We think we want to have all the things and be able to choose from them, but in reality, people are complex. We adapt really quickly. We change. We modify. We do all these micro calculations in the back of our head. And more options is usually the harder route. And having everything right in front of you, how many times you see it, right? The person that's gifted the world, it just goes and spoils it away, because I think personally that's a harder position to be in. We were just trying to make it out, make a way. And I led a fine life. I didn't, I had friends and teammates that had a harder life than me, but we weren't over-resourced. Yeah. We didn't have any resources really. We went out with a stopwatch on the road that was at an incline, and we just timed things and ran and figured out what worked. And then that translated to the field, that translated to Jason, Prater at AP, which is my second cousin. If we haven't already talked about that, but not that it matters. People always think he's like my uncle or something.
Yeah, you guys are all just tight, is the way I look at it. Yeah. They're Praters.
Yeah.
That led to him, getting a space and renting spaces and going from Jackson to Chillicothe to a bigger space in Chillicothe to a bigger space in Chillicothe, and started weight room coach, and really being able to facilitate change and programming and really effective sports science at a level that is scalable with weight room coach.
Yeah.
And this is not a weight room coach ad, by the way.
No,
I am wearing weight room coach gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is neat how it's all tied in together over the last 15 years, or 20 now, 19. I would say that 05. You were around. You were coaching.
Sure.
I mean, kind of that was. Shoot. I don't want to say that was kind of. That's not why you quit. You had a career change, but like you saw that an era was about to flip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you coached all through the mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. And it was very apparent that sports in general were just, they were less.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was fun to be a part of that. Try to figure out, how it's going to go. And, I didn't realize in saying this now, I mean, we're all very familiar with Jason and everything. I didn't realize you were the guinea pig that kind of started all that. And I do remember that now.
Yeah.
That you got how much you guys worked. But I guess I just didn't piece that together. But like that time, that was kind of where AP prep was being developed.
It's Adam there.
Yeah,
that was where pretty much. I mean, because you were Prater's. I don't want to say guinea pig, but I mean, you were his vested interest. He was family.
Well, I mean, and I think that the interesting piece to this, and tell me, I could be wrong, but like you were training to become, I don't know, more athletic. You were training to drive performance at these camps and combines, where it's very important to run the fastest 40 you can run, have the highest vertical that you can have.
Shuttle runs.
And I mean, basically they developed an entire program to
make you good at that.
There you go.
Right. Let's be honest. Southern Ohio football isn't the strongest football in Ohio, let alone the country. And the one thing on paper that is strong that you can compare against other athletes anywhere in the world.
Yes. Are your numbers.
Are these numbers that have been the same for decades, hundreds of years.
Yeah, those metrics don't change.
Yeah. And that is something that's very measurable. That's something that we always focused on, and Jason still to this day, right? It's a very measurable, back to your SMART goal, right? Like it's such a measurable difference to focus on that. It's like, it's not how do we tackle better?
Right.
It's debatable what the better form is, and and whatever, what's the best scheme to run against this offense or defense, which I would be worthless at these days. Yeah. But it's just concrete. There's no way around it. There's no denying if you're stronger, faster, smarter.
There's not two opinions about it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
So at what point during all that are you an engineer? Did you graduate with an engineering degree?
I did not. Okay. Sorry to let you down.
That's all right. What'd you graduate with?
So I did start in engineering.
Okay.
And so right through all that, I went to Wellston High School, graduated, like we kind of talked about, got some offers to different schools, Big Ten schools. At the time, it was Big East or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Pac-12. I mean, I had a lot. I had a lot to choose from, thankfully. In Northwestern University, which is in Evanston, right outside of Chicago, was my choice to go to. It was Big Ten. It was one of the best universities in the country. And I graduated valedictorian at Wellston, one of many. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Never benefited me a bit. So if you're a valedictorian or a future valedictorian, or you're worried about not being a valedictorian, it's okay.
You're going to be all right.
Yeah. And then
nobody's ever said, "Oh wow,
yeah,
hey, you're valedictorian. You're hired."
No, this is like a party trick. Okay. But I started as an engineer.
Okay.
And
did you want to be an engineer?
At the time, I think so.
Or like, were you so sports driven in high school that you had no clue?
Oh yeah, I mean that's most people at that level, to get to that level, you're only sports driven.
You're just thinking about sports. That's it. Yeah.
There's very few people that I played with. Some people, like Pat Ward, was an All-American tackle for us my freshman year and graduated with a 4.0 in engineering and double majored in Spanish, and now works at Boeing and like builds rockets or something. Right?
Yeah.
And played in the NFL for a few years.
Yeah, there you go.
So like he cared about school.
Yeah.
And I cared about school, but they were paying me to be there. And I started as an engineer because I was like math science. I like to build things.
Yeah.
I really didn't know why, but quickly found out, and by quickly it was like over a year, that engineering was just too much of a workload for me as somebody who was fighting for playing time.
Yeah.
And like, right, I'm not the best athlete on the team. Even having run a, 4.50 40 and fast shuttles and blah blah blah, right? Like, I was hand timed at a 4.49 one time, but I don't know if that's I don't know.
You count it.
That's the one I would use.
Yeah,
It might have been down. It might have been downhill. I don't know.
Wind was blowing.
That's
It
the one I would
wasn't on the
use.
road. It wasn't on Bay Road. It was at Indiana University.
Hey, guys, we got to pay the bills. Let's talk about AP Prep and how you look them up at apprep.info. You go in there. If you got a child and they need performance training, that's one of the things that they offer. And it's simple. Their performance training, it drives their athletes to seize full genetic potential. And first of all, they're going to assess your kids' overall balance, their mobility, their hand-eye coordination, their foot speed, understand all their body mechanics, their output, their strength, everything. Look them up, apprep.info. All the info's there. You'll see it. Then they got a boxing class for the adults. It's $10, or you can join by the month. These workouts, you can burn up to 1,000 calories an hour. So, guys, you can't beat it. Look it up. I know it's a drive over there. It's a good time for you and your kid. You'll love it. Do some good bonding time. apprep.info. Look them up.
But I quickly found out I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle it. It was just too much of a workload. So I switched, and basically I got a degree in business and then got like a couple of little fancy things around it. And then I redshirted, so I was able to get a master's degree in marketing as well for free, which is nice. Being on scholarship benefit, huge benefit that I earned. So that, I got 2 degrees, a master's degree in marketing, which I've kind of spun into, a leverage now for
What you're doing now.
part of my creative, whatever. But yeah, we don't have to zoom past the Northwestern if we want to talk about it more.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I'll go whichever way you want to go. I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, I think we could go this way I think we could just kind of, cover this part real quick, or not however long you want to go with it. But, I'm sure, you're talking to 2 dads right now, I mean, you're kind of like in between, you had us, and then you came along, and then now you got the sons, right? And, we constantly are asking ourselves, if we're doing the right thing, if we're, this is just all sports, I mean, it could be Chad's daughter's playing volleyball, my kid's wrestling, his son plays football, baseball, all kinds of things. And we're constantly worried about the burnout. And and I'm not saying that you did it by any means. I would never even say that around your dad. But like, I do feel like, you were ready to hang it up when you did, I guess.
Yeah.
You're ready to move on.
Concussions pretty clearly say you should hang it up. But it was a long ride, and it was hard, like one of my favorite little sayings, right? Burnout usually occurs when there's no end in sight. When you don't know where you're going next, and you're just churning your wheels, and you're just like, you got no direction, and you're just running in circles.
Yeah. That's 100% correct.
I was ready to hang it up. I was ready to take the next step. I was ready to try, and I didn't exhaust all my options.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever get to see, could I play in the NFL?
Right.
All the guys that played beside me when we had top 5 defenses in the country.
Right.
Played in the league. But I'm not going to sit here all day and be like, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. Like, you never know. Mm-hmm. So I just take the straightforward, simple approach, and it's just like, hey, I didn't get the shot. it's over. Unfortunately, I, had some brain scans, and
Sure.
my last game, I went out, on the, I was listening to a podcast. What do you guys call it? The long bed.
Oh, you got long bedded. You got long bedded
out there.
Yeah,
I didn't get long bedded in the sense that Keeper would use the word.
Yeah, right.
I didn't get carded. I kind of got carded up, but not really. Yeah. But it was at Ohio State. All my family was there.
I remember that.
It was a place that, I'd always dreamt of playing, and got to play there.
Yeah.
Only for a quarter and a half, but
yeah. Hey.
had a few tackles.
That was it.
Yeah. I was seeing like 3 running backs, and
Really?
I just kind of came off the field. I was like, hey.
The collisions at that level are just amazing, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're like, it's Ohio State, and their left tackle, their left tackle is 6'8", 300, and
you're playing
can like reach you from across the room.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's you can't imagine it. I mean,
No.
if you've never done it, it's just whatever you think it is. It's like 3 to 10 times worse.
They always said
Every
the
play.
speed of the game and just the hardness of the game. And
The speed of the game really changes with the big skill guys. So now instead of running a 5.5, your left tackle is running a 4.8.
yeah.
And it's Taylor Lewan.
Yeah,
and
he weighs
6'6",
350
and he's six.
pounds,
Yeah, he's 6'6", 320.
Yeah.
and he's a all-pro tackle. So like, it's a little different.
Freaks.
Yeah, the skill guys. The skill guys are, fast is fast at any level. But when you got a big guy that's running that fast, and you got to defeat him and then tackle the guy that also runs a 4.4.
Yeah.
That's where it's really.
It's happening real quick.
Oh,
And,
my.
and it's happening
Well, and
aggressive.
the thing that I can imagine is it probably happens every night on the practice field too.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way you stand a chance of even tackling Carlos Hyde or Christian McCaffrey or all these guys that I played against, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got to play against McCaffrey, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we held him under 100 yards and won, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
It was a good
He would
game.
like to forget that game.
that's got to be cool, though,
that's
sitting here now and seeing these guys. I mean, a lot of these guys out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I played the guys that I played against now are getting into their
Elder years.
final years.
How old are you, Jaylen? We was trying to figure this out
30.
for the show. You're 30.
Yeah.
So you've been done now, what, 6-7 years?
Yeah, my last season was like 16-17 season.
Okay, yeah. We was trying to figure that out and just piece that all together on how old you were.
Yeah, just turned 30. So
the whole time you're at Northwestern, you've got the whole football thing going, but you're also right outside of Chicago, man, and you grew up in Hamden.
Yep.
A little bit of an adjustment there, or like.
Yeah,
Did you fall in love with it, man? Or,
Yeah, I mean,
because you're still there.
It's not. So first off, it's not. Now I live in Chicago. I live in the city, but then Evanston is not Chicago,
right?
By any means. The downtown city, Chicago, that people see and hear about and read about. It's not even close to the same. Evanston is still a relatively large city. I think it's like 100,000 people or something like that. Maybe even more. I may be wrong, but I had a job, and 2 jobs really. Northwestern University education is a job, and football is a job.
Yes,
and you don't really have a choice to fall in love. It's get in line, do the work, put it in, see it through, or don't.
You don't have time to devote towards a relationship.
Anything else?
No. It was hard. I went into college with a relationship, and it was just hard. It's something that doesn't. Division I athletics for any sport, any college athletics program, really, but especially at that level, it's a job.
Yeah.
It's like, mom and dad's full-time job.
Yeah.
Plus then you got to go to school.
Right.
And do training and rehab and
recovery.
Yeah. Like you're getting up at 4:30, coming into the training room. At least I did. I was a little bit overkill, but that's why I played.
Yeah.
Come in, get my ankles taped, go get training table, eat breakfast, come in, watch yesterday's practice film or game film or whatever. A little bit of film review on the team before, then you have meetings, You do meetings for a couple hours, then you practice a couple hours. You go right from practice to class. And for me, first couple of years, that was going to like chemistry class.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do it. I'm not. It's just really hard after, a 6-hour workday.
Yes.
And then after class, you come back to the stadium. You watch practice from that day. You take notes. You get better. You get in the cold tub. You stretch. You eat. You go home. You do your homework. You go to bed. And you get up and you do it again.
Right. Over and over.
And it's really simple. I love the simplicity of it. People act like it's
you
the
don't
most
really have to
complicated
think
thing in the world.
I mean, it's
You don't think. You just do. It's all action.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of athletes, I think, have trouble post sport, especially at any level, is because you've been assigned a job. You've been programmed to do these things that, you just do.
It's very transactional.
And planning and, just having some sense of self and identity and developing what you even really like in the world.
Okay, here's a rabbit hole alert, but I think it fits into this conversation. Jaylen, where do you land on the whole, NIL thing?
I was good. Yeah.
Obviously, that wasn't something that when you were there.
Yeah, it was not a thing.
Do you
Definitely not at Northwestern.
are you a proponent of that? Because you did say one thing that stuck with me there is you're like, well, and I earned basically an extra year and got my master's degree.
Yeah. That's the whole podcast. I mean, you could have 1,000 episodes on the pros and cons. At large, I understand the argument of, especially a football program of a major Power 5 school earning, millions
versus
or billions of dollars for a university.
Yes.
Transactionally, right? Student athletes, if you're on scholarship, are getting paid by free tuition, and then plus we get stipend, right? Your rents, you get money for rent and food and anything you need. Right. And if you're smart, you could come out with money.
Yeah.
You could save. When I was playing.
Yeah.
Not now. Right. So there's an argument to be made that the student athletes deserve, a slice of pie a little bit.
Sure.
They deserve their fair share. On the flip side, it is a slippery slope. It's, once again, it's like, this is like something I'd have to prepare to talk about. But
yeah,
I think it's hard because the reality, now that I look back on me, even just like, I'll just use myself as an example. As an 18 or 19-year-old kid playing at Northwestern, you're a kid.
Right.
You have no clue to do, what to do with $1,000, let alone $1 million or whatever some of these kids are getting now. And then that's the exception. Like, so let's not like talk about the outliers. It's just hard. It's another thing to manage. It's another thing to
promote.
Yeah. It's hard.
Well, I mean, most of the guys,
I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I just think generally student athletes have enough to manage. It's hard for them to do all things well. And that's just, I think, just becomes an easy way out of a lot of things for kids at that age to have money and to have the resources to just go wild. And you're getting a lot. You're getting a free education. You're getting a lot of things.
Well, that's what I know. A lot of the guys I've talked to about it that, they played before this started. And I think overwhelmingly, most of them are like, well, I think it's unnecessary. I mean, I'm not against it, but I didn't feel like I was cheated.
No, not at all. Yeah, I certainly won. Nearly $500,000 worth of a school paid for.
I've used you as an example, and I know this guy wouldn't care if I brought this up on your show, but I've always said, you and Jason Snyder, okay, you guys both come out of college with a pretty good. And Chad's daughter just graduated from Brown, you know, this past, or she's getting ready to, right?
Graduate in May.
Yeah, she graduated in May, but you know, you come out of a Brown, or you know, just like Snides in the Naval Academy, you know, and his football accolades, and then you at Northwestern, you know, biggest engineering school in the country, pretty much. You know, you guys came out, and Helena's going to come out with just an incredible market value. And I kind of want to know, like, you know, I didn't know that about life until I met Jason Snyder. Okay, and I met him about 05, 06. And you know, I don't know if you remember at the time, but the big stink about Snides was he was getting paid so much as the athletic director at Jackson High School. You remember that big?
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, you know, and he was like, you know, coming out of a Naval Academy school, you know, Jason, he goes, you've got a market value of $200,000. You know, and it's the same way at Northwestern. And I want to know, like, you know, not like how much you're making or none of that stuff, but I want to know, like, you know, was all that, you know, all the sprints and the uphill runs on Bay Road and the, you know, the growing up around all the Violets, Violet Kiefer, and all those guys, you know, and Walt and those guys, like, you know, at the end of the day, whenever you walked across that stage at graduation, you know, 6-7 years ago, however long it's been, did you feel ready, and did you feel that you were accomplished enough to, not necessarily you, but do you feel like that system and coming out of Northwestern gave you what you needed with all that? Like, if that makes sense, the way I just asked it? I don't know.
Yeah,
if it did or
definitely.
not.
I think the truth of it is nothing replaces real experience. Having done this for, you know, been out of school for a while now. I was lucky to come out with a master's degree, and master's programs are a lot more closely related to real life, I think. So I got a little bit of a different taste of what it's like to actually work with businesses and do real work, not like solve math
equations. And
like as an engineer, like some of the first classes, they basically just try to weed you out. It's basically boot camp for
smart kids.
Yeah. And they're just like,
let's see if they got the grit.
Yeah. Program this math problem. Like, so none of that is particularly helpful.
Program this math problem.
Literally. I mean,
yeah, that's what you have to do, is it? Yeah.
So not that it's bad, whatever, it's fine. But I think being a student athlete, especially at that level, you come out with a particular set of skills. I'm Jason Bourne here.
Yeah.
Like you come out with a set of skills that are not, you know, that you don't get anywhere else. It's decision making under pressure. It's how to be, you know, consistent, how to work hard, how to work with a team,
how to lead,
how to win, more importantly, how to lose.
Yeah.
And you have all these, I mean, that set of skills is just invaluable, especially at that level. I played in championships. I played all over the country. Football has afforded me to see most of this country.
Yeah.
Not like just traveling, but just football, playing in California or Tampa
biggest
Bay.
Biggest stadiums in the world.
I played in Yankee Stadium. We played in the Tampa Bay Bucs Stadium. You know, we played wherever. I didn't play here, but, you know, Soldier Field, where the Bears play in Chicago, or we would have games at Wrigley Field or wherever. Like, just incredible thing. We chartered like Boeing 747s as a team, and, you know, got to lay on a first class bed and just hang out. And we had the whole plane to ourselves and ate ice cream sandwiches, right? Like just stupid stuff that's whatever. So athletics gave me all that. Northwestern is hard. There's something to just being able to complete something that's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the biggest value, I think, in any high level education.
You think that was worth more than seeing the things like, you know, like now, you know, you've been on a Boeing 747 first class eating ice cream, kicked back.
Yeah.
Do you think that drives you now because you got to experience those things? You're like, okay, that's kind of what, not that you want ice cream on a 747, but I'm saying like, you know, you want that life. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you do.
Yeah, I do.
No, I think they were just like Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Well, I mean, I've never had bad ice cream.
Yeah, same.
Hey guys, while we're paying the bills, let's talk about one of our oldest sponsors that's been with us since the beginning. Geiger Brothers. Geiger Brothers is headquartered in Jackson, Ohio, with offices in Columbus, Ohio, and Knoxville, Tennessee. We provide construction services in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee. A veteran and dynamic staff of talented people, symbolic of our 100-year history of success, gives Geiger Brothers a distinct advantage. Leveraging that experience for our customers allows us the ability to provide consistent and superior performance for their construction, engineering, and fabrication needs. And hey, we've had several of these guys on our shows. Scott Massey, Kyle Hickey, Shay Meredith, just to name a few. Go back, look through some of the old episodes and get to know them. It's a great group of people that have been with us for a long time, and we certainly appreciate it. So enjoy tonight's show, courtesy of Geiger Brothers here in Jackson.
It was helpful, but
because you're living in Chicago now.
But yeah, to answer your question, really, I think so. I came out of college, and I had a weird divorce with sports, right? Just head injuries, and I was in a weird place, and I was kind of depressed and did a lot of therapy and a lot of stuff that was facilitated by Northwestern Athletics, which is incredible of them to really take care of people. But I never really did the traditional path thing. I came right out and started my own business, and it's kind of an extension of what I still currently do, but it has some to do with my actual education, but a lot of it was just things that I was passionate about.
Yeah, you're kind of arts, really.
So I basically run like a creative agency. So commercial, photo, and video, everything from ad campaigns to branding, design work. I work closely with a former teammate of mine, Dwight White, who we have a studio in Chicago, and we do work with local brands, designers, artists, whatever, big restaurants to global brands like Pinterest and McDonald's and Nike and whatever. So we've ran the gamut on that, and none of that. Once again, I don't want to say none of that because we both actually did a master's in marketing, and we're able to leverage that along with being high performing student athletes and all that and having that background. We were able to find creativity. He's a fine artist first, so he does a lot of art, painting, murals, that world. And then I kind of fell in love with cameras. So a lot of the stuff I do mainly that earns me money is photo video production, but we're able to position ourselves and pair that with having actual background in marketing, experience and knowledge to separate ourselves from normal creatives and be able to position ourselves as actual professionals and not just some artist that's doing creative stuff. Right. And that's incredibly valuable. And all of that stuff we taught ourselves from a creative standpoint. And I think that goes back to being athletes and being competitive and having drive and blah, 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 being hungry and whatever. But it doesn't, in the age of the internet, like you can do whatever you want from anywhere and you can teach yourself. It's just about finding what you enjoy and
your groove.
Yeah. And just chasing that down and being as relentless as you were with whatever and just making it happen. Too many people just quit early.
I don't think a lot of people know how to be relentless anymore.
No, it's the paradox of choice thing I was talking about earlier, right? There's so many options. They know what's on the other side of the curtain. They know the grass is greener over here if they just do it, but really get paralyzed by choice and thought and overthinking, and they don't have the ability to be consistent and be really narrowly focused on this one thing that they just,
go after.
Well, and you think about it, like you honed that discipline your whole life playing a sport.
Yeah.
And then took it to the next level. I mean, at Northwestern, you said, that was a job. That was constant.
Yeah.
And just to get on the field, I can't imagine the amount of preparation and work you had to do and how competitive it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially for me, like I said earlier, like I was not,
you weren't 6'3".
I'm not the best athlete on the field. I was athletic, but I'm far from the best athlete on the field at that level.
Do you think being from Southern Ohio, though, you had some grit that maybe some other people didn't?
Yes.
I've heard that classified. Like even Coach Blackstone said that in all his travels, the kids from Jackson Wellston were probably the grittiest he ever saw ever.
It's the nature of not having a ton of options and really focusing on the things that matter, community and family and being consistent, working hard. It's the simple things.
Easy stuff.
Yeah, and I actually found that a lot of athletes come from that type of background at the level that I played at least on my team, that weren't necessarily
rich kids. Like
they weren't rich. I mean, Northwestern is an affluent school. I'm not going to act like there weren't rich kids, but there were a lot of kids that weren't from Southeastern Ohio, but maybe were from the inner city or a suburb of Dallas.
Sure.
Or, whatever, some little gritty school in Boston. That had those same characteristics. That, they got stuff done and they're performing at a high level. They're starting and building companies now.
They're relentless.
Yeah.
That was the next question I had. You're telling about you and your teammate starting business together, doing this.
Yep.
I'm curious, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of your teammates just be wildly successful as well.
Yeah.
For probably some of the same reasons, correct?
Definitely. And it is a lot more of the traditional route, investment banking,
Sure.
private wealth management, consulting, whatever, high earning careers that are great for a lot of people. But there's equally, it's either that they're high achievers at a broadly speaking. I think, I don't want to say sport does that, but there's something about sport that builds consistency and helps people understand how to work hard.
Yeah. Yeah, so you say, but like you're saying at Northwestern, half of them were your not typical, but your standard kind of go manage a portfolio, go be a commercial lender, and then you got another half of you that are like, okay, let's roll the dice.
Yeah,
let's take our chances. What's great is that camaraderie that you got. You and your old buddy still going strong here. And I mean, because there's no guesswork with guys like that.
No,
you know what he is. He knows what you are. You ain't got to worry about, hey, is this guy going to let me down? You've been in that situation before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And if you do go down, it ain't without a fight, because there's nothing worse than having a business partner or a friend or, anybody that you're close with, a relationship with, that you watch give up. Like, I know we've all had friends that were like, man, dude, you're going to have to do this one on your own. We've taken you as far as we can take you. It's time for you to do something. And there's nothing worse than seeing a guy kind of lay down on himself.
Yeah.
And I think with teammates or even just guys that you have camaraderie with through sports, you get a lot of that out of the way. You know who's going to make it. You know who's not. Who's going to be a foxhole man. We talk a lot about that. Who you want in your foxhole with you. I want Curdy Prater and Alan Kiefer. Yeah.
Not bad choices.
Yeah. So are you happy with your current situation in Chicago? Like, are you picking up a lot of business? Like, what's your goal with your business? I saw you did the February. Yeah. I enjoyed the videos in February. You're really good at that.
Thank you. Yes, business is weird. I think across the board for everyone, business is weird. Yeah. It's the economy, it's trends. I think it's post-COVID reverb, but people over-investing in digital media. And
society's weird right now. I mean, just everything.
Yeah, so the business is not booming, but it's good enough. And I built, some sustainability and been smart about how to approach building a business and understanding that, having done it now for, going on 8 years.
And Hey guys, let's pay some bills here. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Kelly Wiley Group of Keller Williams Excel Realty. I tell you, we all know Kelly and we all know the group down at Kelly Wiley Realty, and I'm telling you, you won't find a better class of people to deal with. A verifiable fact, something that I found very interesting. They are the #1 real estate agency in Southern Ohio, and it doesn't shock me. I tell you, there's 180 different items that a home buyer and a home seller must do whenever you buy or sell a house. The Kelly Wiley team is great at all of them. They will help you out from start to finish. They have some of the most up-to-date processes and systems that you can possibly dream of. You're going to love the whole entire experience. So if I were you, I would give those guys a call at 740-577-3795. That's 740-577-3795. Or you can also look at all of their inventory at kellywileygroup.com.
Yeah, so to be honest, business is a little slow. It's a little weird, and that's kind of why I took that pivot, like you mentioned. So I did that, make a photo and a video every day for the whole month of February and post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
This little kind of like
challenge,
creator forward series, right? And going back to athletics or whatever you want to call it, but just being able to be consistent.
How many hours does that take?
People can't, a lot. A lot.
I mean, you did 30 videos that were probably, every one of them was probably no longer than 90 seconds.
Yep.
But I would say, so let's just say that you 90 seconds a day for 30 days. Okay. And people's like, oh, what's he got? A couple hours. You probably had 40 or 50 hours in that.
Oh yeah. It depends. Some days go slow, some days go fast. Most of it was improv. Really wasn't planned out. Some of the better work that I published, the goal was simple for a reason, and that was just to be consistent, build consistency in making, and not.
You said it.
Yeah, and not build consistency in building the best thing you've ever built.
Right.
Because too many people get caught up in the loop of you got to build a million things to get one right, and yeah, the long way around it. Who knows? Yeah, some days it took 10 hours, some days it took 2.
Let me ask you, you're in that, not to shift gears away from all this and Jaylen Prater, but let's get current here. Where do you see marketing? Like, I was thinking about this, Chad and I struggle a lot with this. Right now, we've got one editor and we're pumping podcasts at them pretty heavy, pretty consistently, and we do 1-2 a week, right? Which keeps them busy. But, people don't understand the amount of work that goes into one pod. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, so you see you see a lot of these coaches, like, I want to use like these business coaches and, just sales coaches and people. And you see these people that are just content. And how are businesses managing that nowadays? Like, is that where you kind of come in? Like,
yeah, most people on the internet are full of shit. So
you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
If they're not, my number one rule on the internet is if someone is telling me to do something they're not doing, I don't care.
Yeah,
which is most people. So that weeds out like 60%.
So if somebody tells you to do something that they're not doing,
that they're not doing themselves.
Yeah. You're just telling you to do something because they read it in a book, or that this person over here is doing it, or like, that's why I framed the series the way I did, is because I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm doing in a way that's hopefully insightful and valuable to somebody else. Whatever.
Give them back a little bit.
Yeah. Because I think with the internet and people having so much access to information, everything is designed for a certain person now. And we have too much knowledge of what's behind the curtain. So nothing is original, nothing is unique, nothing is designed from a position of passion or true value. It's just, how can I engineer something to make a lot of money for this person that I know a lot about because I have all the data and information about them. That's thing number one I think that's happening. So that's why I want to focus on being me and unique and focus on just making stuff that I would make, whether it's here in Hamden or in Chicago, it doesn't matter. And then the biggest shift that's happening, and this is why I did that series, and I think it's the way I'm going to start trending and continue to trend, is so many businesses and bigger strategic partners that would have otherwise hired an agency or had an in-house production team are leaning on individual podcasts and creators, people that do this on a one-to-one basis, or at least a one-to-many basis, and not a many-to-many basis, like an agency where they've got a team of people that are talking to a team of people that are talking to these millions of people that they don't know anything about. People are turning to the individual, the creator, the small person, because they have all the knowledge. They have the information. They've built trust with their audience. They know what the community actually wants. And it's not some overcomplicated data analytics firm like a Nielsen or, Mintel, which I love Mintel, by the way. So whatever, we just did a big project for them. But they know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of why I'm shifting gears a little bit away from the B2B model and more to the, call it B2C, direct to consumer, whatever you want to call it, model of me talking directly to people. And if somebody just so happens to see it, then they can inquire and I can acquire a new customer or whatever that way, versus trying to market to businesses, because most of those people don't know what they want anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, well, I guess, and I'm kind of asking more like, okay, so are you seeing like business trends for marketing as a whole going, and I don't want to say directly to consumer, because that's what they've always done, but how are we going to manage? Is it going to be done through, I know this is a stupid question, but you probably know this, do you see like the TikToks and Facebooks and Snapchats and Instagrams? Is that the way of marketing?
Oh yeah. And it has been, and it will only continue to change and grow and evolve. And the other reason people are going directly to creators is because it is changing and evolving so quickly. They can't keep up.
Yeah.
It's big data. They're trying to develop systems where they can repeat it and have recreate results for the next company and the next company, but things are changing quicker than they can keep up with. So the way, remind me of your question. Tangent.
Are you seeing the direct marketing? Like, okay, I'll give you an example.
Yes. So they are TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, X, Twitter. That is TV advertising. That is
it's your modern day spectrum.
Yeah. That is radio. That is
all in
billboards. That is every traditional magazines. That is every traditional media outlet today. And that's super high level, right? Like, I think that's become apparent. And if you look at any marketing spend on any Fortune 500 company, their spend is year over year incredibly skewed towards digital and particularly influencer marketing.
Influencer marketing is the new thing, isn't it? Like getting a guy like Shaquille O'Neal, or not necessarily a spokesman, but just now that spokesman is now they're calling that an influencer.
Yeah.
It's
just reframing. And right, let's flip that on its head. Let's look at what Shaq's done to stay relevant.
Oh, my.
And that's more of Shaq being ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And understanding that if people like me, if I'm in the public eye, if people listen to what I say, if I stay out of any funny business, I'm going to do me and do the things that I like to do and be me and be a human and have a personality, and not just, today on whatever we've got, whatever, he's just being him. How many times the clips of him and Charles Barkley go viral?
Yeah, you're just waiting on something to come across the table. Yeah.
It helps to be one of the best basketball players of all time, but
yeah.
But zoom out on that. That's why he stayed relevant. He stayed with the times. He's doing DJ sets. He's doing,
shoe ads.
He's a man of the people, and he's doing charitable acts randomly, random acts of kindness. And he is accessible, and for better or for worse, right? That probably makes his life miserable, but
sure,
at some point he'll disappear into the hills, and we'll never see him again, and that's okay.
And it's interesting because every company, because like Chad, he's in the medical. How do you want to say it?
Medical sales.
Medical sales. Okay, and he's kind of B2B, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're all B2B, business to business. However, all, you talked about those marketing spends on those Fortune 500 companies and things, I think, and this just kind of relates to all marketing. Chad's company might not be needy of Facebook or Instagram reels,
Sure.
but they might be in need of reps or something like that. So, they all of them have to kind of integrate these social media channels into their forte of advertising. But I guess what I was really meaning with that is I think you have to declare before you ever spend the first dollar on advertising, you have to declare the purpose. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this advertising? Is it because of you want to grow your name, you want to come top of mind, or are you looking for a specific, result, of recruits or sales or service, or what are you looking at? I mean, are you getting into the weeds with people that much? Like, are you saying, okay, here, what's your result, or what kind of result are you looking for?
Definitely. That goes, that harkens back to the marketing stuff that we kind of started out with. And Dwight worked at Kraft Heinz, like Heinz Ketchup, and did consumer insights for a few years. And I worked for a company called Challenger Breadware. It was a startup, direct to consumer, like kitchenware brand. And that was like kind of during the pandemic, and we didn't have anything else to do. We didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And we did a lot of that work, and we did that stuff in practice in grad school in theory. But yeah, that's incredibly important. That's probably the most important thing.
Knowing your result, or knowing what you're trying to achieve.
You're a million times better off spending 90% of your budget on pre-production and research and understanding data. And that's the whole thing that we do and that I do in particular is insights-driven, data-driven, creative, that is purposeful and is intentional. So many people create shit and just ship it off into the ether and think, oh, well, hopefully it'll go viral.
So are you guys, like, what you're doing is, would you call it like targeting, like formulation of a specific target to achieve a certain result, or?
Yeah, it just depends.
Or is it more of a brand building?
It's a case by case basis.
Okay, it just
that's
depends.
The cheap out of the box answer, but
so you're a creator and consultant.
All of it. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, most of the stuff that I do, it's not shared on the internet. And sure. A lot of it's like contracted. I'm not allowed to share the projects that we do with McDonald's. So, I'm not even allowed to say that. But
but it might be in a seminar and you've put together that not slideshow, but that presentation.
Yeah. And so yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we've done all of it. And we've done from a foundational perspective on the creative side. So developing brand assets and colors and, understanding design systems and building websites and stuff. I'm not like a developer, but I understand that process and UI, UX and all that stuff that's important there. But on the brand strategy side or branding or marketing, a marketing strategy, all these things always get conflated, but it's so separate and so different. We've done all of it. We're definitely leaning creative more, but the reason we win is because we go above and beyond to do a little bit more brand strategy, marketing strategy, and drive it with purpose and intention and understand what our goals are and what we're trying to do.
Or niche, whatever they call it.
Whatever you want to say.
I think it's pretty neat, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's just, I've really admired how you've kind of came out of college, because I know enough about you to know how you grew up. And I've really admired the way that you've just really, I don't want to say slowed it down, but, you got out of it because I know what kind of pressure you were under, not necessarily under, but you were pushing yourself. And I've really admired what you've done since you got out of school, where you're just kind of like, I don't want to say freelance, that's a horrible word, but you're just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to live happily. And I'm going to live, I don't know that you are or whatever, but it seems that way, like it seems like, well, Jaylen's just cool.
Yeah, I'm happy enough. Thank you for saying that. And
that's admirable, more than if you would have been, I would expect for you to come out with a $500,000 a year job from Northwestern. Yeah. It's admirable for me, though, to see.
It's a trend with this guy. It seems to me like you take the hard way. You're not afraid to do it. It's like, hey, man. You know what? I'll just start my own business.
There might be something a little off with me, but
You're a Prater.
It's yeah, that explains most of it.
I've never met one of you that isn't just unique as hell. Ryan is a freak.
Yeah, it was my uncle.
Do you know Ryan, Chad?
I'm not. I don't think so.
You know Randy Spawn?
Yeah.
You know how like meticulous he is?
Yeah,
Well, that's Ryan. Okay. And he also shreds guitar. He also sings like an absolute bird.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Yeah,
He
he's a
shreds.
fabricator.
Shreds
really
on a
artistic.
bicycle. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it all, does it behind the scenes, does it quietly,
Yeah.
but is a freak about all, like he's just that good at anything he touches.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my exploration post college is a result of post sport, and so a lot of the thing I was talking about earlier of athletes don't really understand how to assimilate into normal life, normal in culture, and
Sure.
and it's harder than it seems, and it seems silly to say that, but I think the fact that is, the fact of it is that it's really that simple. So I took the time to understand and see what I like and try to build myself and build an identity and just find things that I enjoy.
That's what it seems like, man. And like I said, I mean, as a 43-year-old guy watching a guy that I watched grow up, kind of, it's like it's been nice just to watch you kind of just come into your own there, man. And I admire the shit out of it. It's
Thank you. Thanks
keep
for your
doing
support.
it.
Thanks for your support.
Yeah,
It means a lot.
absolutely.
Well, we've chased, I mean, you and I've chased things, and not that you're not chasing things, but you're chasing them for a different reason than I think that we chased. We stayed in this small town. To an extent. And I mean, what you're chasing is whatever the upper echelon of that small town is. And you have to jump into that, where you over in Chicago, I mean, nobody really gives a shit about Jaylen Prater now over there, so you're chasing it out of passion.
I think that's also maybe to introspect and dig a little deeper. I think that's part of the reason I like Chicago and
Right.
to be anonymous a little bit and to just, walk down the street and have somebody spit on me or something, and it feels good every now and then.
That's that old Kiefer violence.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
But the baseline there is so much more intense, and everything from just the noise and the, for better or for worse, personal safety and it's just, you got to be a little more vigilant and purposeful and
Sharp.
So it keeps you on your toes. I like that part of it. And I think,
Do you make it back here very often?
I try to be honest. I mean, I've just been so head over heels into my business and trying to grow it and build it to a place where I can have some more freedom on all levels that I haven't gotten back much, but I do try to come back pretty,
Once a quarter.
yeah,
Well,
as much as
well,
possible.
I mean, will you commit to a second podcast? I guess is what I was.
Of course, yeah.
Kurt, you're going to have to go get him.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up after this, but think about it. Chicago, very underrated. You could almost throw that into the Ohio Big 3 Cs, because you're just, I mean, you came here today. Yesterday. I mean, but your dad went up and got you.
We can say I came here today.
Yeah, your dad went up and got you, brought you back here yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, most people would make that trip. It was
about a 12-hour round trip.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
16-hour day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's people that do stuff like that all the time, and I mean, it's like, but I mean, if you lived there, I mean, you could be back here in what 6-7 hours?
Yeah,
You can fly
easy.
here in an hour, man.
Yeah,
from Chicago.
To
It's
Columbus.
50 minutes. I mean, you got to drive an hour and a half to Columbus.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think people that get hung up on Columbus or Cincinnati, it's like, hey, you might want the Chicago in there. I mean,
Chicago is great. It's got great food. It gets incredibly cold, but especially Chicago in the summertime is great. A lot of good architecture, the blossoming art scene. It's still, I mean, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong, but it's one of the most affordable major cities in the U.S. Everything you see on the news about, everything you see on the news about like crime and that it's real, but it's not. It's like it's very It's very avoidable, and I live a very safe, happy life. And I have a lot of great things. Good public transportation, easy to get around.
you use the subway.
Yeah,
Do you?
yeah, as much as possible. Because I mean, it's like the quickest option. I bike when it's warm enough. Like cycling is the best way to get around the city.
Man, I tell you, I mountain bike. I mean, I'm sure you know that, but I've always thought, I think it'd be more dangerous to go mountain biking in like New York City than what it is to go ride the Red Bull Rampage track. I mean, I mean, those guys, you got to be special to go biking in those big cities. But so you're going to come back. You'll be back with us.
I'll be back as many times as you want to have me. Last time I saw you, you said you asked me on before that. And that's not true, but that's okay.
I have. I think that's
not true.
I think I had sent Prater or Jason a message. And
that's why you messaged me.
Yeah, okay.
And you say, hey, do you want to come?
All right, sorry about that. Well, this time we worked through your dad.
Yeah, my agent handled this one.
Yeah.
We got the time. I was a little bit late. Sorry.
Yeah. We'll have to pay him the finder's fee or
Okay.
I want him on here too. I want an old, just brawling story time with Kurt Prater.
Good luck.
Oh, we'll get him on here. Yeah, we got him boxing. We'll get him back on here. So, ladies, you got anything else, Chad?
No, man.
Hey.
Thanks a ton.
Yeah,
for joining
thank you.
us.
Hey,
Yeah,
give our
appreciate
sponsors a look. Hey, shout out Weight Room Coach. You're heavily involved with that. I mean,
yeah, I was. I mean, if you want to go back like we did, just the origin of everything. But I helped Jason a lot early on, just developing brand stuff, and he's running fast.
He's running fast.
Yeah, he's going alone and he's going fast, and that's the way he should be doing it right now.
He's doing well. So shout out Weight Room Coach and everybody else, man. So hey, chubbies,
like and subscribe.
Go follow Jaylen on Instagram. Help him grow a little bit. So you'll get at least 2 followers from there.
Yeah.
See ya.
See you, chubbies. Yep.